Hey, so WrestleMania 36 is complete. Day 2 is finished, and Drew McIntyre is now the WWE champion in a finisher fest with Brock Lesnar, which I guess we kind of expected. The only bad thing about this match is the way that they put it together. Yes, they put Drew McIntyre in a hole, but putting Drew McIntyre in a hole was essentially just Brock spamming the moves that Brock does. Brock does not do anything other than F5s and German suplexes today. So that was pretty much it. It was okay, I guess. I didn't hate it. I was still kind of reeling by the Firefly Funhouse match, quote unquote, which was nothing more than a psychological deconstruction of John Cena. Now, this kind of deserves its own video because I mean, the event just ended 20 minutes ago, so I have not fully absorbed or soaked in what was happening. But it was clear from the storyline that I was able to follow that Cena is talking about himself when he talked about being the most overhyped superstar. He wasn't talking about Bray Wyatt. He was essentially talking about himself. And this was the John Cena uh, basically being exposed. And you know what Bray Wyatt was talking about, he's going to expose John Cena, and John Cena's a fraud and all that type of stuff. This is what he means. The Cena which being an overly aggressive babyface. When he would do stuff like JBL quit in the I Quit match, and John Cena still threw him off the top of the cage, and it wasn't a cage; it was like a top of a truck or something. No, he hit him with like a steam pipe or something like that. But Cena always did stuff like that. Like when he said when Wyatt talked about John Cena turning people's weaknesses into a joke, the first thing I thought of was the joke that John Cena did to Vicky Guerrero, when Vicky Guerrero and Jerry the King Lawler was both making jokes on Vicky Guerrero. They was going back and forth. It was a great segment, by the way. And then they was talking about Vicky Guerrero being fat. This was back when you could actually criticize women. So they was talking about Vicky Guerrero, and John Cena said, "You're so fat you wake up in sections." It was hilarious, but it was unbabyface like. And so this match kind of showed you that Cena has not always been the most perfect babyface, and this is a problem. It wasn't really a match as much as it was a psychological deconstruction of John Cena. It was no match because there was no referee, there was no bell. I don't remember hearing a ring bell. They didn't make contact except for maybe twice and the Fiend is the one who initiated contact. But it was like I was thrown into I felt like I was taking ecstasy or something. It was just absolutely out of like shrooms, shrooms and ecstasy. If we could take them both at the same time and survive, I think that's what we just had. I think that's just happened to the mass of us. But this deserves its own video. I'm going to go back and uh and look at this and probably do a video just on this match and about all the different callbacks and stuff like that. But basically, it shows you that Cena is not an archetypal hero, and that he has done quite a few things that people who enjoy heroics would not agree with, and I get that, and a lot of people really love this match. I'm still confused. I consider myself to be pretty average, above average IQ, and I'm fucking stumped. Like, because I guess there's a lot of references that to movies and things like that I did not see because I'm not really a movie guy as far as watching thrillers. So I didn't watch a lot of movies and stuff like that that might help explain what the hell was going on. So I'm gonna have to actually look at some of the references. But they kept trying to basically say that mirror him and Hulk Hogan, and it's basically saying that if Cena was uh, in Hulk Hogan in the '80s, he would have went to WCW and stayed on top and did the NWO thing because that's who Cena is. Cena is not the superhero that he wants everybody to think he is. So Firefly Funhouse, it was too much. Yes, it was way too much. Okay, so the first real match we're going to actually review here is the SmackDown Women's not Fatal Five Way SmackDown Women's Championship match, and here's why I complain. Okay, the four horsewomen of the WWE, which I did a video on them. Three of them hold all three major championships in the WWE. You know, Charlotte is now the NXT Women's Champion. Becky Lynch is the Raw Champion, and Bayley is the SmackDown Champion. And that is a problem because you had an opportunity here to put Rhea Ripley or Shayna Baszler over strong, and you chose to do neither. Neither. I mean, look, I'm not a wins and losses matter that much kind of guy. I think Rhea Ripley is like 23 years old. She can get over this. Shayna Baszler also can get over this. But it's the principle, you know. Like you have the opportunity. That would have been like if Brock would have won. Like you know, not Bayley winning, but Charlotte winning would have been like if Brock won. Yeah, it's just nonsense to me. But the SmackDown Women's Title match told a decent story. You know, it was basically the Sasha Banks Bayley story, which you know we really didn't need in the middle of WrestleMania. But considering the circumstances of the event, I understand why they chose to go this route. But there was a lot of people with the spoilers saying that Lacey Evans actually won. So I don't know if they may have filmed multiple different finishes, and then you know let's see who is going to spoil the finish. But Bayley wins, to which was a surprise to me because this title run cannot go worse. Again, Bayley, just like Becky, just seems to just be holding the title. I have no idea what the hell they're actually doing with it. But they're actually just building to Sasha Banks and Bayley eventually falling out. And they told a little bit of that story in this match. That's basically all the match was. The match was a good, solid 3-star match, I think. Lacey Evans is actually better than a lot of people give her credit for. I see a lot of people shitting on Lacey Evans. She's actually not that bad. Naomi, I have Naomi, Shayna Baszler, Rhea Ripley. There's just so many women on the roster that just cannot get past this 4 horsewomen. It's like, you know, eating a gigantic fucking steak and it just sits in your stomach. That's what the 4 horsewomen are. They're clogging up your digestive tract. And when it comes to pro wrestling, they just sitting there. You know, all 4 of them just sitting there, taking up all the time, all the spots. You know, and that's the reason why Alexa Bliss got bumped to the tag team division. But that's neither here nor there. It was a solid match. It wasn't terrible. A little high on the card for me though. So the Street Profits versus Austin Theory and Angel Garza. Street Profits continue to win their titles. Bianca Belair made an appearance, which I thought was pretty cool. This was kind of just this was like a palate cleanser. That's what really this match just existed because, you know, the match that came before it was absolutely, it was crazy. So I gave this a solid 1.75 stars, almost 2 stars. All 4 guys really worked hard. They did, you know, some really athletic stuff. I really don't like when guys jump onto their partners, which Montez Ford did twice. He jumped on D'Angelo Dawkins twice, which is really weird because usually that was a spot that was used in the very next match to show miscommunication and dissension in the ranks between the 2 of them, and yet Montez Ford in the match before jumps on D'Angelo Dawkins twice. One of which was a fucking frog splash. Okay, so let's get to the meat of night 2. One of the best matches of the fucking weekend. One of the best matches, period. Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing. These 2 guys went. I don't know. I don't know what the official time was. I know it was 8:15 when when the video package started, and it was 9 o'clock or something like that when the match ended. It was a grueling, physical, psychological, I guess you want to call it a thriller. It was amazing. And they did not use a lot of weapons. It didn't feel as dangerous as other last man standing matches because they seemingly didn't do a lot, quote unquote. Because there was not a lot of hitting each other in the head with, you know, iron bars or bricks or shit like that. They were just 2 guys beating the shit out of each other, and we went on a tour of the performance center. We went through the gym, we went through the production area, we went through like these corridors, we went through the main office, we went through the medical area, we went into a storage facility, and they were just using the environment, you know, whatever they came across. So they was like jumping off ladders if they came across ladders. They were, you know, Edge was dangling from the roof of the the office area to deliver that elbow splash, and it's like they weren't using a lot of weapons. They were utilizing the fact that there was no crowd. So because there was no crowd, they could travel a lot more, and they just did it, And it was like, and then they still told an effective fucking story because Edge started working the abdomen. That was something that was really interesting because you would think that working the abdomen on guys who are in excellent shape would not do a lot, but when you think about it, it's actually a boxer's strategy. Like how boxers, the gut punch. That's kind of what Edge was doing, and the only problem I had with it is that Kevin Owens did it the night before. Like, because Kevin Owens did sort of the same thing with Seth Rollins, where he was working the gut, the gut area, the abdomen area. And Rollins is in much better shape than Orton, and he's like 15 years younger or something like that. But this was an excellent match, man. Orton was working the neck area. That I was kind of surprised there was not a lot of verbal jabbing back and forth, which I would have expected and would have actually liked, because that actually makes up for the fact that there is no crowd. But this storyline was about grit, and that's what they was talking about is grit. And so what they did was they just turned it into like two soldiers on the battlefield fighting each other, like they're just throwing their best shots at each other and seeing who can get back up. And I really enjoyed it. I think it was, man, if that goddamn boneyard match hadn't happened, it probably would be the match of the weekend. And it's also up there with that ladder match. Look, these two WrestleManias, if you want to call it one event, it's the best ever. If it's one event, if you want to call it two events, it's two of the best ever. And there was no crowd. So there was no idiots booing. There was no morons chanting what. There was no fucking dipshits with beach balls. It was just, you could get into the match, pay attention to what the performers are doing. And yeah, you would have liked for some reactions to things, because you could see that the wrestlers were looking for reactions. They were doing things looking for that reaction. And they was kind of hoping that you would get the reaction at home. And you were kind of doing, and it was working, because a lot of that stuff, when it would happen, you would be like, ooh, it's still kind of, you still got that reaction, even though the crowd didn't give you the reaction. So these manias really delivered. And there's four matches in particular, the Edge Orton, the ladder match, the boneyard match, and I don't know if you want to call the Firefly Funhouse match a match, but it was an experience. It was an incredible fucking experience, and it was great. But let's continue with this show. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley was kind of just there. It was kind of just a match that happened. It was a solid match. It was just a showcase for Aleister Black, really. You really could have done without it. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler was pretty formulaic. I called actually what was going to happen when I saw the spot on SmackDown with Otis, with Sonya Deville being one of the reasons why Dolph ended up with Mandy. I cringed at the Mandy Otis kiss. It was real cringy. Mustafa Ali as Mr. Robot is pretty cool. If he's going to feud with Dolph Ziggler, that's going to be two guys bumping like crazy. I'm really excited for that. Otis and Dolph Ziggler was the best story on SmackDown. It really could have benefited from the crowd, though. This is one of those matches that really needed a crowd. Some of the other matches didn't really need a crowd. This one did. Because Otis is not the best worker in the world. So they just had to get the story told when it comes to Otis. So it turned out okay, I guess. I gave it a star and a star and a half. I gave Lashley and Aleister Black 2 stars. And Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley opened the show. I thought it was a damn good match. Charlotte is really good. Like, I know I say that she's, girl Randy Orton, and she is. She is just pathetically good. I just cannot stand that she's so fucking overpushed that it makes me not care about, what she does, because it's almost like, Charlotte, she's going to win. And I kind of didn't have that here because the match came on first. I thought maybe they would start with Rhea Ripley winning. But I was waylaid at not only Charlotte winning, but Charlotte winning by submission. And I was just kind of like, we couldn't do a roll-up finish. We couldn't do something to try to protect Rhea Ripley. And look, I'm not saying that Rhea Ripley was harmed in any way by losing. I'm just saying that you could have protected her more. And, the men's division had focused on putting the next guy on and getting the title off of the part timer and putting the title on to somebody else who could. And yes, title changes in front of no crowd is really weird, but ultimately, these are the deeds that need to be done. You can always just do rematches. Like if you really want to do Goldberg versus Roman or Goldberg versus Braun in front of a crowd, you can just do it later this year. So, I mean, it is what it is. But that's also, but Shayna Baszler losing and Rhea Ripley losing, those are the downsides of the entire weekend for me. In addition to some of the matches that were put on the card that really weren't needed, like Austin Theory and the Street versus Austin Theory and Angel Garza versus the Street Profits, and Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley and King Corbin versus Elias. You could have cut those 4 matches off the cards, and both of those cards still would have been very good. And actually, it would have been better because the first after Charlotte's match, this second Day Mania was kind of weird for like 30 minutes because you had Aleister Black out there, he wrestling Lashley, and they had no heat. So there was no real story between them. So you're trying to figure out, okay, why are they wrestling? And then you just kind of figure out in the middle of it, like, oh, okay, this is about telling the Lashley and Lana story, kind of built into their breakup, because that fed into the finish with Lashley going for the Dominator, and which is his old finish. And Lana wanted him to use the spear. He goes for the spear, gets hit with a black mass and get pinned. So that was basically the story. Is they're about to break up Lana and Lashley. Okay, fine. I dug Aleister Black's gear though. His gear was dope. So I think that's about. I can't gush enough about Edge and Randy Orton. I probably won't watch that match again. Matter of fact, I know I will. When I'm sitting back trying to think about how good this really was. I'm definitely going to watch this match again. I'm definitely going to watch that ladder match again. Definitely going to watch the Boneyard match again. Definitely going to watch the Firefly Funhouse match again. And those are the top matches of the weekend. WWE delivered. Some of the more work rate matches could have used crowds, but the top matches that really they benefited, seemingly from the low crowd and also from having substantially lower expectations. Nobody expected much from these events except for maybe the title changes. They had no idea what the hell WWE was going to do. So they benefited from it. And that's really dope because they let out 2 great WrestleManias back to back on different on different nights. The second Mania, I will say, there seemed like an excessive amount of commercials in this event. It made it feel less important than the first one, especially when they did a review of the first Mania, the day one. I'm like, we just saw this. We don't need, you don't, if everybody is watching the second day, you've seen the first. You don't need to spend this 3 minutes. You could have added that 3 minutes to something else or, literally done anything else. But it was still fine. It was 2 great Manias. I prefer day one. I think I'll give day one a 9. Out of 10. I would give day 2 an 8.5 out of 10. The only reason it wouldn't get a 9 is because I was actually legitimately confused by the Funhouse match. For like the first few minutes, it was so fucking confusing that I can't give it a straight up 9. But it was it was a spectacle, and WrestleMania is all about spectacles. So what did you guys think? Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.